Today on our 2016 Chevrolet Equinox, we're going to be taking a look at and installing the Roadmaster Diode 7-wire to 6-wire Flexicoil Wiring Kit, part number RM-15267. Here's what this wiring kit's going to look like once it's installed on the vehicle. Here at the front we've got the 6-round connector. It's got a nice spring-loaded lid here so that whenever it's not in use, it's held nice and tight so that weather and the elements don't get in there and possibly corrode those connections. And this does a good job of making sure that the 7-way that's on your RV or motorhome is able to get power down to the 6-way. It's got 4-pole wiring that's run from this connector here at the front all the way to the back and splits off in order to go to either tail light. And it's got diodes that go to both tail lights so that the signal from the RV and the signal from the vehicle's factory system are kept separate in order to make the function of the lights nice and simple as it goes through the same wire and the same connector. And with that diode separating the signals, it protects your vehicle's electrical system from the wiring coming from the RV. That way, in case anything were to happen and compromise the wiring coming from the RV, you're not possibly going to damage your vehicle's electrical system. Now, let's show you how to install this wiring. So I've gone ahead and routed the wiring from the front here all the way to the back in order to get ready to go up towards the tail lights. So I routed it through here, and there's a little opening cut in this underbody panel that's back here. And I was able to feed it right through there. And then I just traced it here to go towards the engine cradle. I just routed it up so I could run it through and try and keep it protected as much as possible. Came through, and then again went up inside the frame and was able to run all the way to the back near the gas tank and come out there. Then I ran up along the side of it and up so I could run over the suspension components. And as I've done this, I've been sure to avoid anything that are moving parts or anything hot like the exhaust that may potentially damage the wire. And I continued to route it over, and I secured it with zip ties in locations along the way in order to make sure that it didn't move around too much and get damaged. We got it back to over here, so then we'll be ready to head up towards our tail lights. So now we can remove our tail lights. And in order to do that, you take a flathead screwdriver, pop the little plastic cap off there, and then underneath there's two 10mm screws, which you can also use a Phillips head screwdriver if that's what you have. Once you got that out of there, you can begin to pull towards the rear of the vehicle on the light, and it should just pop loose. Then once you've got it off of there, you can undo the connector on the back side of the light by squeezing down on the tab there and separating them. So we'll do that same thing for the other side. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some old airline tubing as a fish wire in order to feed it down through so it can come out underneath. So then I'll be able to attach my wiring to the end of this and pull it up through towards the tail light. But also before I do that, I'm going to get that yellow wire separated from the other 3 wires so that I can just concentrate on that one going across to the other side once I've got those other 3 pulled up. So now what we'll need to do is once we've got these bare connectors exposed here, we'll need to test to see which ones provide the power for our brake lights, turn signals, and tail lights. So right now we've got our brake pedal depressed, so we'll check for brake lights. Alright, so there for brake power, we've got it coming through that dark green and white wire right there on the end. So next we'll check for turn signal. Our turn signal is coming through that same dark green and white wire. So that means that our brake and turn signals run on that same circuit. So that's going to make it nice and easy for installing our diode there. So then the last one we need to check for is tail lights. So for tail light power, we've got that coming through the brown wire there. So brown wire for tail lights and dark green and white wire for our brake and turn signal. So then we'll repeat that process to check on the other side for our tail lights and brake and turn signal power. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 3 wires that I've got coming up through here, the white, green, and brown wires. And I'm going to cut them to about the length I need. I'm going to give myself just a little bit extra to make sure I've got plenty to work with. So then what I can do is with all three of these, I'll make sure that they're separated, and then I'll strip the ends of them back. So then what I'll need to do is this white wire is going to be a ground wire, so I'm just going to ground it to the body somewhere here behind the tail light. Then the brown wire I'm going to need to attach to the brown wire, which is our tail light signal coming from the vehicle, and then the green wire I'll need to attach to that dark green and white wire, and I'll be using a diode to attach them into those wires. So I'm just going to take this electrical tape that's on here and remove it so that that'll give me a little bit more room to work with these wires. So I'll start with the brown wire here. I'll clip that. And where you clip them, you want to try to be sure that you're going to have enough room behind your tail light wherever you're going to clip them in order to fit the diode. So I'll strip either end of that back, and then I'll take one of these blue spade connectors off of the diode, and then I'll crimp it onto the wire here. And you want to make sure with each of your crimps that they're nice and secure. Then we'll do that same thing for the other end of that brown wire that's part of the vehicle's wiring harness. So then lastly, I'll need to take the brown wire that's coming from the 4-pole from the front of the vehicle. It's going to be our towed wiring. And I'm going to need to take the other end of that brown wire from the excess that we just clipped off, and I'll need to strip that back as well. And then I can take the two ends of those wires and twist them together. And then I'll take the larger yellow spade connector off the diode that has that one on there, slide that over, because that's what this yellow spade connector comes in the kit for, is to allow you to connect two ends of the brown wire in the one connector there. And the reason we're doing that is because the power from the motorhome is going to come into this connector, but by having that other end connected in there, it'll then send the tail light signal to the other side as well. So then we can take our diode, and on the side that has the in with the two spades on that side, we'll connect our yellow connector, which will be the power coming from the motorhome, and we'll connect the one that's coming from the vehicle. And then on the other end, we'll connect the one that goes out to our connector there. So that way, power can come in either of these, but then it'll come out this one side. And this helps to make sure that it's separated and your vehicle's protected. So now with the dark green and white wire, we'll do pretty much the same thing. We just won't be doubling any connections up like we did in that yellow connector for the brown tail light wire. So now what we can do is take this white wire, and there's a little ring terminal that comes with the kit. We'll put that on to our white wire here, crimp that down. So now what we can do is use a self-tapping screw that comes with the kit in order to secure down our ring terminal in order to give ourselves a good ground for our white wire here. And I'm just going to put that into the body right over here. And wherever you choose to ground it, you want to make sure that there's nothing behind there that could potentially get damaged by you running that screw through there. So now we can take the brown wire that we fed in that's going to go to the other side and use that fish wire to get it going back towards that other side. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of rubbing alcohol in order to find a good spot to mount my diodes. So then I can peel the backing off of the double-sided sticky tape that's on the diodes. I can stick it down there. Then I can take the other one and put it up in a position over there. So now we can reinstall our tail light. So I brought that brown wire back down, and then I connected the yellow wire to that fish wire when I brought it back down underneath here. And then I went through the bumper rail. So you can see here, it goes into the bumper rail, goes all the way across to where it then comes out the other side and heads up towards the driver's side tail light. And then I used that fish wire to route it up through here the same way I did on the passenger side. So now over here I'll cut these to length, again giving myself a little bit extra just to make sure I've got enough to work with. So then I'll strip the ends of those back. And then on this side, I went ahead and tested these, and the brown wire over here is also going to be the tail light signal. So we'll match that brown wire to this brown wire. And then the yellow over here is going to go to this yellow and black wire. So that's going to make it nice and simple so we can continue to match up colors. So I'll start with connecting the yellow. So next I'll do that brown wire. Now what we need to do is get our 4 wires plugged into the back of our 6-round connector here. So in order to do that, first thing I'll do is pull the little dust cover off the back so that everything's exposed. And then I'm going to take these wires and make sure they're split apart and stripped back so that we've got access to the wiring. So then here on the back of our 6-round connector, we've got some little letters etched in next to each connection. That's going to let us know what they are. So we've got right, left, ground, and then the TM is for trailer markers, and that's going to be our tail lights. So I'm going to loosen up the screws for those 4. You just need a small Phillips head screwdriver for this. Now before I begin putting those into the back of the connector and connecting them, I want to slide this dust cover up over my wiring so that I'll be able to slide it back down later. And I can take that brown wire and put it in to the correct location for tail lights. Then I'll just tighten that screw down until it's nice and snug, just to make sure that that brown wire's held securely in place. The next one I'm going to do is the ground wire, which is my white wire here. So I'll feed that in there. And again, tighten that screw down to hold it in place. Next one will be my left turn and brake light, which is going to be the yellow wire. And then finally my right turn and brake light. So I can slide that dust cover back over and then mount it up into place here. Now if we have to, we might need to bend our mounting points down just a little bit. Then we can take the self-tapping screws and secure it in the location right there. We're going to be using this tow doctor in order to test and make sure that we've got power going from the plug at the front of the vehicle to the back, and this will simulate the RV or motorhome. And if you want to get one of these in order to use this to test it, you can get that on our site, part number HM50928. But you can also just plug it into your RV or motorhome. First, check our tail lights. Then we'll check our left brake and turn signal. And then our right brake and turn signal. And that's going to complete our look at and installation of the Roadmaster Diode 7-wire to 6-wire Flexicoil Wiring Kit, part number RM-15267 on our 2016 Chevrolet Equinox.
Click the link below to shop, learn more, or visit us at eTrailer.com.